Hey guys, tonight we're not wandering through medieval castles or exploring lost civilizations. Tonight, we're pulling into a suburban driveway somewhere in Reagan's America, circa 1983. The air smells like freshly cut grass and someone's grilling burgers 3 houses down. A basketball bounces rhythmically against concrete, echoing through the quiet street. You can hear Duran Duran drifting from someone's boombox, tinny and distant. Down the block, a kid rides by on a BMX bike with a banana seat. Baseball cards clipped to the spokes, making that satisfying flutter. The streetlights are just starting to flicker on, casting that orange glow that somehow made everything feel both safe and slightly melancholic. This is America in the 1980s, before the internet existed outside of government labs, before cell phones fit in your pocket. When MTV actually played music videos, and the biggest decision on Friday night was whether to rent a movie from the new video store downtown or catch whatever was playing at the mall cinema. It was a decade of contradictions, mourning in America and rising unemployment, Just Say No campaigns and cocaine cowboys, Cabbage Patch Kids, and nuclear anxiety. And in the shadows of that prosperity gospel and those power suits, something was happening. Something quieter than the crack epidemic that would dominate the news. People were disappearing into marijuana addiction, and nobody wanted to talk about it because, well, it was just weed. How bad could it be? So before we step into this story, take a moment to like the video and subscribe if you genuinely enjoy what I do here, and tell me in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is for you right now. I love seeing that constellation of sleepy places glowing across the world. Now, dim the lights, maybe put on some headphones, let the world outside fade away. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're 24 years old in the spring of 1982. You live in a small ranch-style house that you rent with 2 roommates on the edge of a suburb that's trying hard to look prosperous. The house has that particular 80s aesthetic, wood paneling in the living room, shag carpeting in avocado green, a kitchen with harvest gold appliances and Formica countertops with cigarette burns along the edges. Your bedroom is small, barely big enough for the waterbed you bought used from a guy who said it came from a divorce sale. The mattress sloshes when you move, makes you slightly seasick sometimes. In the living room, there's a 25-inch Zenith television console, the kind that looks like furniture, all fake wood grain and brass accents. On top sits your roommate's Atari 2600, controllers tangled like snakes, a stack of game cartridges beside it. Pac-Man, Space Invaders, Pitfall. Next to the TV is your pride and joy, a brand new VHS player, a Panasonic you saved 3 months to buy. It cost $400, which felt like a fortune. But now you can record movies off HBO and watch them whenever you want. The future has arrived. The stereo system takes up an entire wall unit, a receiver, dual cassette deck, turntable, and speakers the size of small refrigerators. Your record collection leans against the wall. Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin, The Grateful Dead, some newer stuff like The Police and Talking Heads. The cassette tapes are everywhere, on the coffee table, on the floor, in the car, some with handwritten labels, others blank because you forgot what you recorded. You work at a printing company downtown running an offset press. The pay is decent, $6.50 an hour, enough to cover your share of rent, your car payment on the used Datsun 280Z parked outside, and still have money left over for beer and gas. The work is monotonous. Load paper, align plates, monitor color density, check registration. 8 hours of mechanical repetition that leaves your hands stained with ink and your ears ringing from the press's constant rhythm. But underneath the surface normalcy, there's a current running through your life. It started in high school, of course. Doesn't it always? Behind the gym, passing a joint that someone's older brother bought. That first experience was unimpressive. Coughing, burning throat, maybe feeling a little weird but not sure if it was real or just the power of suggestion, But you kept trying because everyone else was, and somewhere around the 10th or 11th time, it clicked. Suddenly music sounded different. Colours looked brighter. Food tasted incredible. That pizza from Domino's, the one with the 30-minute delivery guarantee, became a religious experience. You and your friends would get high and then eat an entire pizza each, laughing so hard your stomach hurt, time stretching out like taffy until 3 hours felt like 10 minutes. College was supposed to happen. Your parents had expectations. Community college, at least. Maybe work your way up to state university. But college required focus, discipline, the ability to sit through lectures about subjects that seemed impossibly boring, compared to the freedom of getting high and listening to Dark Side of the Moon in your friend's basement, watching the laser light show someone set up with flashlights and coloured cellophane. So college lasted 1 semester. You stopped going to classes somewhere around October, kept cashing your parents' checks for tuition and books, but spent the money on weed and concerts instead. When the grades came, when your parents found out, there was a fight. Doors slammed. Your father's face red, veins standing out on his neck, your mother crying at the kitchen table, dabbing her eyes with a tissue that left little white pieces stuck to her mascara. You moved out, found the house with the roommates, got the job at the printing company. Your parents barely speak to you now. Christmas is awkward. Thanksgiving is worse. Your younger sister looks at you with a mixture of pity and disappointment that cuts deeper than your parents' anger. She's doing everything right. Good grades, student council, college applications already going out even though she's only a junior. She's who you were supposed to be. But weed makes all of that fade away. After work, you come home, change out of your ink-stained clothes, grab a beer from the fridge, Milwaukee's Best in cans because it's cheap, and roll a joint on the coffee table. Your roommate Doug might be home, might join you. Or maybe he's at his girlfriend's place. Either way, you light up, inhale, hold it, release. The day's tension melts, the disappointment quiets. For a few hours, everything is okay. The ritual becomes sacred. Wake up, shower, work, come home, smoke, eat, watch TV, sleep, repeat. On weekends, you might go out, catch a movie at the multiplex, see Blade Runner or E.T. or whatever's playing. But honestly, you prefer staying in. Going out requires effort, social interaction, the risk of running into someone from high school who's doing better than you. Staying home is safe. Staying high is safer. Your dealer is a guy named Rick who lives in an apartment complex near the airport. He always has good stuff. Green and sticky. Seedless if you're lucky. $20 gets you a 1/4 ounce. Enough for a week if you're careful. 3 days if you're not. You drive over there every few days, park in the lot where the spaces are numbered but nobody follows the rules, knock on his door. He always makes you wait, peering through the peephole before undoing the chain lock. Rick's apartment smells like weed and incense, an attempt to mask the weed that just makes everything smell like weed and incense. He has blacklight posters on the walls, mushrooms, wizards, a tiger that glows purple and green. His stereo is always playing something. The Doors, Jimi Hendrix, Bob Marley. He deals from his couch, a brown corduroy sectional that's seen better days, weighing out weed on a triple beam balance scale like he's some kind of scientist. The transactions are quick, money for weed. Sometimes you stay and smoke with him, listen to him talk about conspiracy theories, how the government killed JFK and MLK, how corporations control everything, how Reagan is just an actor playing president, while the real power brokers pull strings from the shadows. It all sounds plausible when you're high. Everything sounds plausible. 1983 becomes 1984. Reagan gets re-elected in a landslide. Apple releases a computer with a mouse and a graphical interface that seems impossibly futuristic. Michael Jackson moonwalks at the Motown 25 special. The Soviet Union boycotts the Olympics in Los Angeles. Prince releases Purple Rain. You watch these things happen on the news, on MTV, in the newspaper you sometimes glance at during lunch, but they feel distant, unreal. What's real is the joint in your hand and the way it makes the world softer around the edges. Your tolerance is building. What used to get you high now barely touches you. You start smoking more. 2 joints. After work instead of 1, another before bed, 1 first thing in the morning on weekends. Your paycheck shrinks as more of it goes to Rick. You start buying in larger quantities to save money. Half ounces, then full ounces. The bag sits in your sock drawer, a constant presence. You know exactly how much is left without even looking. The thing about weed, you tell yourself, is that it's not like cocaine or heroin. It's not addictive. You could stop any time you want. You just don't want to. Why would you? What's the alternative? Sit around sober and confront the fact that you're 25 years old, working a dead-end job, living with roommates, with no degree, no career prospects, no girlfriend, no direction. Weed is the lubricant that makes that reality bearable. Your roommates start noticing. Doug says you're smoking too much, that you're high all the time, that maybe you should cut back. You laugh it off. Tell him you're fine. Tell him to worry about himself. But you can see the concern in his eyes. The way he and your other roommate Steve exchange glances when you come home from work and immediately start rolling a joint. The conversations get tense. They're worried about money. You've been late on rent twice in the past 3 months. The electricity got shut off once because you forgot to pay the bill, too stoned to remember when it was due. You had to scrape together the reconnection fee, borrow money from Doug that you still haven't paid back. Promises are made, you'll do better, be more responsible, pay them back next week, next paycheck, soon. But the weed comes first. Always. Even when you're running low on groceries, eating ramen noodles and canned soup, even when your car needs an oil change, even when your work shoes have holes in the soles, the weed comes first. It has to. Because without it, the anxiety creeps in. The depression that you didn't even know was depression. The crushing weight of being alive and having no idea what you're doing or why. Work starts to suffer. You call in sick more often. Not often enough to get fired, but enough that your supervisor notices. You show up late, blame traffic, even though everyone knows the printing company is 20 minutes from your house on a bad day. You make mistakes. Wrong paper stock, incorrect colour mixing, registration problems that waste hours of work and hundreds of dollars in materials. Each mistake earns you a warning, a conversation in the manager's office where you nod and apologise and promise to do better, while thinking about the joint waiting for you at home. Your car becomes a sanctuary. During lunch breaks, you drive to the far corner of the parking lot, park behind a dumpster, crack the windows, and smoke. Just a little, just enough to take the edge off. You keep Vicine in the glove compartment, chew gum obsessively, spray yourself with cologne. But you can see people looking at you when you come back in, their noses wrinkling slightly, their eyes knowing. The paranoia starts small. You're convinced your supervisor is watching you more closely, that the security guard knows, that the guys on the loading dock are talking about you. Probably they are, probably everyone knows, but you tell yourself it doesn't matter. You're functional. You show up. You do the work. What you do on your own time is your business, except it's not just your own time anymore. It's seeping into everything. You start smoking before work, just a little hit to make the morning more bearable. You smoke during work. You smoke after work. You smoke before bed and first thing in the morning. The weed isn't getting you high anymore. Not really. It's just maintaining a baseline, keeping you at a level where you don't have to feel the full weight of your life. Your parents call less frequently. When they do, the conversations are strained. Your mother asks if you're eating enough, if you're taking care of yourself. Your father asks about work, about your plans, about when you're going to get serious about your future. You give vague answers, deflect, make excuses to hang up. After you do, you smoke another joint and try not to think about the disappointment in their voices. 1985 arrives. Back to the Future plays in theatres, and you see it 3 times, high each time, marvelling at the DeLorean, the flux capacitor, the idea that you could go back and fix your mistakes. What would you change? The first time you smoked? The semester you dropped out? Some earlier moment, some fork in the road where you took the wrong path? Or was this always inevitable? Was this always who you were going to be? New Coke launches and everyone hates it. Farm Aid happens and Willie Nelson sings about helping farmers while you're sitting on your couch eating Doritos, wondering what it's like to care about something that much. The space shuttle Challenger is being prepared for another mission. Mikhail Gorbachev becomes Soviet leader. Madonna is everywhere. So is cocaine, though that's not your scene. You tried it once at a party and it made you feel jittery, paranoid, like your heart might explode. Weed is softer, safer. Weed just makes everything slow down. Your social circle has narrowed. The friends who went to college have drifted away. The friends who got married or started careers have lives that don't overlap with yours anymore. What you have now are smoking buddies. People who come over to share a joint, watch MTV for hours, maybe play Atari until someone gets bored. The conversations are circular, going nowhere, punctuated by long silences where everyone's lost in their own high. There's a girl, Jennifer, who works at the Taco Bell near your house. She's pretty in that 80s way. Big hair, blue eyeshadow, too much eyeliner. You go there more often than necessary, ordering bean burritos and tacos you don't really want just for an excuse to talk to her. She's friendly, laughs at your jokes. One night you work up the courage to ask her out. To your surprise, she says yes. The date is at Pizza Hut, the one with the red roof and the salad bar. You try to stay sober, or at least not too high, but the anxiety is overwhelming. Before picking her up, you smoke half a joint just to settle your nerves. Then another quarter in the car before going to her door. By the time you're sitting across from her in a booth with a candle flickering between you, you're more stoned than you intended. She talks about her dreams of becoming a hairstylist, about her little brother who's in middle school, about the trip to California she's saving for. You try to follow along, try to be present, but your mind keeps wandering. You're thinking about whether you smell like weed, whether your eyes are red, whether she can tell. You're thinking about the joint you rolled and left in your car's ashtray, about how you can't wait to smoke it on the drive home. The date is fine, not great, but not terrible. She seems to have a good time, or at least she's polite enough to pretend. When you drop her off, she lets you kiss her on the porch. A brief, awkward press of lips that taste like the Pepsi she drank at dinner. She says you should call her sometime. You say you will. You don't. Because what would be the point? You can't imagine bringing her into your life. The messy house, the constant smoking, the roommates who are barely speaking to you, the job you hate, the future you don't have. Better to let it die here before she sees who you really are, before she looks at you the way your sister does, the way your parents do, before you disappoint her too. That night, you smoke more than usual, the joint in the car, then another when you get home, then another before bed. You lie on your waterbed, staring at the popcorn ceiling, listening to Pink Floyd's The Wall on your headphones. The music pulses through your head, Roger Waters singing about building walls, about being comfortably numb. You understand that more than you want to admit. The physical effects are becoming harder to ignore. Your short-term memory is shot. You forget conversations minutes after having them. You walk into rooms and forget why you went there. At work, you have to write everything down or you'll lose track. Your lungs feel heavy, congested. You cough constantly, especially in the morning, wet, phlegmy coughs that leave you bent over the bathroom sink. Your appetite is weird. You're either ravenously hungry, eating everything in sight, or you have no interest in food at all. Your weight fluctuates. Your sleep is erratic. Sometimes you pass out early, sometimes you're awake until dawn, staring at the TV as it cycles through late-night programming. Carson, David Letterman, infomercials for Ginsu knives and Vegomatics. Money becomes a constant problem. Rent is late more often than not. Doug and Steve are losing patience. There are meetings, interventions of a sort. They sit you down at the kitchen table, both of them looking serious, and tell you that things need to change. You need to contribute. You need to get your shit together. They're not your parents. They're not going to babysit you. You nod, agree, promise. But nothing changes. Nothing can change because the weed is the only thing holding you together. Without it, you'd fall apart completely. You're sure of this. The weed is medicine, you tell yourself. It's self-medication for something you can't name but feel deeply. A fundamental wrongness, a brokenness, a void where purpose and direction should be. 1986 arrives, and with it the Challenger disaster. You watch it on TV at work, the shuttle exploding 73 seconds into flight, the smoke trails forking in the sky like a Y. Everyone is shocked, devastated. There's a woman crying in the break room. The manager sends everyone home early. You drive home in silence, the radio off, feeling like you should feel something profound but mostly feeling numb. You smoke when you get home and watch the footage replay over and over on every channel. Krista McAuliffe, the teacher, gone. 7 people gone. Just like that. The incident sticks with you for reasons you don't quite understand. Maybe it's the randomness of it. The way everything can be going according to plan and then, in an instant, catastrophe. Or maybe it's simpler than that. Maybe you're looking for meaning in tragedy because your own life feels meaningless. Your drug use expands beyond weed. Not dramatically, not to hard drugs, but you start drinking more. Beer mostly, but sometimes whiskey on bad nights. The combination of weed and alcohol creates a different kind of high, heavier, more obliterating. You can smoke a joint and drink a 6-pack and feel yourself disappearing, your consciousness shrinking to a pinpoint. It's relief. It's escape. It's exactly what you want. The printing company lets you go in March. They call it downsizing, but everyone knows the real reason. Your attendance has been abysmal. Your work quality has dropped. You've become a liability. They give you 2 weeks severance and a handshake that feels like pity. You clean out your locker, extra work shirts, some cassette tapes, the coffee mug your mum gave you for Christmas 3 years ago that you never use, and carry it to your car in a cardboard box. Unemployed, you file for unemployment benefits. The process is humiliating. Forms to fill out, offices to visit, the judgment in the clerk's eyes. You're approved for 120 falos a week, barely enough to cover your share of rent, let alone food, utilities, weed. But you manage. You always manage, even if it means stealing a little from Doug's wallet when he's in the shower, even if it means pawning the guitar you bought in high school and never learned to play. Days lose their structure. Without work to anchor you, time becomes fluid, meaningless. You sleep until noon, wake up, smoke, watch TV, smoke, eat something, smoke, watch more TV, smoke, sleep. The cycle repeats. Game shows blur together. Wheel of Fortune, The Price is Right, Family Feud. You watch them stoned, marveling at how happy everyone is, how easily they smile, how simple their problems seem. Your roommate's patience finally runs out. Doug tells you that you need to find a new place. He's sorry, but they can't carry you anymore. Steve just nods, won't even look at you. You have 30 days. You spend those 30 days smoking more than ever, trying to figure out your next move, but mostly just feeling sorry for yourself. Your parents are the last resort. The call is one of the hardest things you've ever done. Your mother answers. her voice bright and then cautious when she realizes it's you. You explain the situation, leaving out most of the details. You lost your job. You need a place to stay for a little while, just until you get back on your feet. There's a long pause. You can hear her breathing. Finally, she says yes. But there are conditions. Your father insists. No drugs, no drinking. You're expected to look for work, to contribute, to act like an adult. You agree to everything. What choice do you have? Moving back home at 27 feels like admitting defeat. Your childhood bedroom has been converted into a sewing room for your mother. Her machine sits where your bed used to be. Fabric and patterns covering every surface. They set you up in the basement, a cramped space with concrete walls and a musty smell that no amount of air freshener can mask. Your waterbed won't fit down the stairs, so you sleep on an old futon mattress on the floor. Your belongings fill 3 garbage bags and 2 cardboard boxes. This is what your life has amounted to. The rules are strict. No smoking in the house. Curfew at midnight. Dinner at 6. Your father watches you like a warden, suspicious of every movement. Your mother is gentler, but you can see the sadness in her eyes, the disappointment she tries to hide. Your sister is away at college, at least. You're spared her presence, her unspoken judgment. For a week, you try. You really do. You don't smoke. You look through the classifieds, circle potential jobs with a pen. You fill out applications at grocery stores, gas stations, fast food restaurants. You go to bed early. You help with dishes. You play the part of the reformed son. But the withdrawal is intense. Weed withdrawal isn't supposed to be real, everyone says so, but your body disagrees violently. You can't sleep. When you do, you have vivid, disturbing dreams. Nightmares about being chased, about falling, about failing tests you didn't study for. You wake up sweating, heart racing. Your appetite disappears. Food tastes like cardboard. Your mood swings wildly between numbness and irritability. Your parents notice. Your father asks if you're sick. You say it's just stress, just adjusting. But you know you can't last. The pressure is building, a tightness in your chest that makes it hard to breathe. You need relief. You need weed. You start sneaking out. Late at night, after your parents are asleep, you slip out the basement window, drive to Rick's apartment. He's surprised to see you. Thought maybe you'd gotten clean or moved away. You tell him you're just visiting, that you're doing fine. He weighs out a 1/4 ounce and you hand over the last of your unemployment money. You smoke in your car, parked in empty lots, behind the grocery store, in the far corner of the mall parking lot, once in the parking lot of your old high school at 2 a.m., watching the dark building and remembering who you used to be. The high is different now. It doesn't make things better. It just makes things bearable. The distinction is important. Your father finds your stash 3 weeks in. You're not sure how. Maybe he went through your things. Maybe you got careless. Maybe the smell gave you away. He's waiting for you when you come upstairs one morning, the small Ziploc bag sitting on the kitchen table, like evidence in a courtroom. The fight is nuclear. Years of frustration and disappointment explode. Your father's face is purple with rage. He calls you a waste, a disappointment, a fuck-up. Your mother cries, begs him to calm down, begs you to explain. But there's nothing to explain. You're caught. You're guilty. And you're not even sorry. Not really. You're just angry that you got caught. Your father gives you an ultimatum, rehab or the street. You laugh, a bitter sound. Rehab for weed? It's not like you're a junkie. It's just marijuana. It's not even really a drug. Your father doesn't care about your rationalizations. Those are the options. Choose. You choose the street. The next few months are a blur. You couch surf, staying with anyone who'll have you, which isn't many people. You crash with Rick for a while, sleeping on his couch, paying rent with whatever odd jobs you can scrape together. You mow lawns, rake leaves, help people move, any cash job that doesn't require references or a drug test. The money goes to weed and gas and cheap food from 7-Eleven, hot dogs that spin under heat lamps for hours, burritos from the microwave, Mountain Dew and Slim Jims. Your Datsun dies in July. The transmission gives out with a grinding noise and a shudder. You coast to the shoulder of the highway and that's where it stays. You can't afford to tow it, can't afford to fix it. You call a junkyard and they give you $50 for it. You take the bus after that or walk or bum rides. Being carless in suburban America is like being invisible. You cease to exist in any meaningful way. Without a car, your world shrinks. Rick's apartment becomes your entire universe. You smoke all day, help him bag up weed for deals, answer the door when customers knock. He gives you a cut, enough to keep yourself supplied and occasionally buy food. It's not a life, but it's survival. The mid-1980s crawl by. Reagan is talking about trickle-down economics. The stock market is booming. But none of that prosperity reaches Rick's apartment, reaches you. You're 28 years old, living on a drug dealer's couch, high, all day every day with no prospects and no plan. The future has become impossible to imagine. You can barely think past the next hour. MTV plays constantly on Rick's TV. You watch it for hours, stoned, fascinated by the videos. Michael Jackson's Thriller, Madonna's Like a Virgin, Cyndi Lauper's Girls Just Want to Have Fun, Prince's When Doves Cry. The videos are little movies, elaborate productions that must cost fortunes. You wonder what it's like to have purpose like that, to create something people want to see. You used to draw back in high school, had some talent, or so your art teacher said. Now you can barely hold a pen steady. Your health continues to deteriorate. You've lost weight, your clothes hanging off your frame, your teeth are stained, your gums receding. You have a persistent cough that won't go away, a rattle in your chest. You probably should see a doctor, but you have no insurance, no money, so you ignore it, smoke through it, tell yourself it's fine. The paranoia intensifies. You're convinced the apartment is under surveillance. Every car that drives by is a cop. Every knock on the door is a raid. You start checking the peephole obsessively, looking out the windows through the gaps in the curtains. Rick tells you you're being crazy, that you need to relax. But you can't shake the feeling that something bad is coming. And then it does. The raid happens on a Tuesday morning in August 1987. You're asleep on the couch when the door explodes inward. Wood splinters. Someone shouting, "Police! Search warrant!" You're yanked off the couch, thrown to the floor, hands zip-tied behind your back. Your face presses into the stained carpet that smells like beer and weed and Rick's cat. Boots everywhere. People shouting. The TV still playing, some early morning cartoon, incongruously cheerful. They tear the apartment apart. Find the weed, obviously. Multiple pounds of it, vacuum sealed, hidden in various places. Find money. Find a scale. Find baggies. Find everything they need to charge Rick with intent to distribute. They find your stash too, smaller but still enough to charge you with possession. At the police station, you're processed like cattle. Fingerprinted, photographed, your belongings inventoried and sealed in a plastic bag. You're given one phone call. You call your parents. Your mother answers. When you tell her where you are, she starts crying. Your father takes the phone. His voice is cold, flat. He asks what the charges are. When you tell him, there's a long silence. Then he says he'll talk to your mother, that someone will call you back. They don't. You spend 3 days in county jail before your arraignment. The cell is overcrowded, smells like sweat and disinfectant. You share it with drunks, brawlers, guys picked up on bench warrants. Nobody talks much. You sleep on a metal bench, use a toilet with no seat in full view of everyone. The food is institutional slop served on plastic trays. You can't eat it. You can't sleep either. The lights stay on 24/7, fluorescent and buzzing. Withdrawal hits hard in jail. Without weed to smooth everything out, reality comes crashing in. Your hands shake. You sweat through your jumpsuit. Nausea rolls through you in waves. The guards don't care. This is just Tuesday for them. They've seen worse. At your arraignment, you're assigned a public defender, a tired-looking woman with a briefcase covered in coffee stains. She looks at your file for maybe 30 seconds before the judge calls your case. The charges are read: possession of marijuana, less than an ounce. The judge, an older man with reading glasses hanging on a chain, looks annoyed. He sets bail at $500. Your public defender says she'll be in touch. You can't make bail. $500 might as well be $5 million. So you go back to county, back to the cell, back to the waiting. Days stretch into weeks. Your court date keeps getting continued. The system is backlogged. Your case isn't a priority. You exist in limbo, high school dropout to jail resident, wondering how your life arrived at this exact point. Finally, 6 weeks later, you're offered a deal. Plead guilty to possession. Get time served plus probation. No felony on your record, just a misdemeanor. Your public defender says it's a good deal, that you should take it. What choice do you have? You plead guilty in front of the judge, your voice barely above a whisper. He sentences you to time served, 6 months probation, mandatory drug testing and court-ordered counselling. Then you're free to go. Free is a relative term. You walk out of county jail into the bright September afternoon with $15 in your pocket and nowhere to go. Rick is still locked up, facing serious charges. You can't go home. You have no car, no phone, no friends who take your call. You're 28 years old, homeless, unemployed, a convicted criminal. You spend that first night in the park, sleeping on a bench, using your arm as a pillow. It's not comfortable, but it's not jail. The September air is warm, muggy. Mosquitoes bite your exposed skin. You can hear traffic in the distance, the occasional siren. Above, the stars are dim, washed out by light pollution. You try to remember the last time you looked at stars and actually saw them. You can't. The next weeks are survival mode. You float from place to place, sleeping in the park, behind buildings, once in the doorway of a closed storefront until a cop rousted you at dawn. You panhandle outside the 7-Eleven holding a cardboard sign. Hungry, need help, God bless. People avoid eye contact. Parents steer their children around you. Once in a while, someone drops change in your cup. Mostly they ignore you. You're supposed to check in with your probation officer, but you miss your first appointment. You're supposed to go to counselling, but you don't. How can you? You have no address, no phone, no transportation. You're invisible to the system now, falling through every crack. The desperation leads you back to the one thing that's familiar. You need weed, not want. Need. It's the only thing that makes the reality of your situation bearable. You find new dealers, guys who operate on corners in parking lots. The quality is worse, the price is higher, but you manage. You scrape together enough change to buy a dime bag, smoke it in one sitting, feel that familiar numbness return. But now there's additional paranoia. You're on probation. If you get caught, you go back to jail, probably for longer. Every time you smoke, you're looking over your shoulder expecting cops to materialize. The high is tainted with fear. But you smoke anyway because what else is there? Winter approaches. 1988 is coming. Not that it matters to you anymore. Time has lost meaning. Days are just periods of light and dark, warm and cold, hungry and less hungry. You wear the same clothes for weeks. You smell. You know you do. People give you a wide berth, their noses wrinkling. You stop caring about appearances, about hygiene, about anything beyond the moment you're in. Rock bottom, they call it. But there's always further to fall. You learn this when you get picked up for violating probation. Failure to report, failure to test, failure to complete counselling. The judge is less sympathetic this time. 6 months in county, no early release. You don't even fight it. What would be the point? This time, jail is different. Harder. The newness has worn off and what remains is the grinding reality of captivity. The same grey walls, the same routine. Breakfast at 6, lunch at noon, dinner at 5. Recreation in a concrete yard surrounded by chain link and razor wire. You play cards with other inmates, hear their stories. Most are in for drugs, crack mostly, some for heroin, a few for weed like you. Nobody's impressed by your story. Everyone's story is some version of the same thing. The months crawl. You mark them by the change of seasons visible through the small window in your cell. Leaves falling, snow, ice melting, finally, spring returning. Your 29th birthday passes unmarked except for a cupcake your mother sends. She found out where you were, sent it through the proper channels. The guards give you grief about it, joke about you being a mama's boy. You eat the cupcake alone in your cell, crying for the first time in months. Released in April 1988, you're given a bus voucher to anywhere in the state. You choose a city 3 hours away, somewhere you've never been, somewhere you can start over. The city is bigger, more anonymous. You can disappear here in ways you couldn't in your hometown. You find a shelter, a place that provides beds and meals for the homeless. It's crowded, chaotic, smells like unwashed bodies and industrial cleaner. You share a room with 20 other men, bunk stacked 3 high. At night the sounds of snoring, coughing, muttering fill the darkness. But it's shelter, it's something. The shelter requires you to look for work. Every day, you're supposed to fill out applications, go to interviews. You try, half-heartedly. But who's going to hire you? Criminal record, no references, no work history beyond a printing job you got fired from years ago. You fill out applications that go straight into trash cans. You go to interviews where potential employers take one look at you and decide before you even sit down. The city streets are harder than you expected, more dangerous. The homeless population is enormous. Veterans from Vietnam, mentally ill people who fell through the cracks, addicts of all varieties. You see people shooting up in alleys, smoking crack in doorways. Compared to them, your weed habit seems almost quaint. But you're all at the same boat, all circling the same drain. You meet people, other burnouts, other addicts. You share joints behind the shelter, pooling resources. There's a camaraderie and shared desperation. You trade stories, lies mostly, about who you used to be, what you're going to do when you get back on your feet. Everyone has a plan. Everyone's going to turn things around. Tomorrow, next week, soon. The counsellors at the shelter try to help. They want you to attend AA meetings, NA meetings. They want you to get into programs, get help. But every program has a waiting list. Every resource is stretched thin. And honestly, you're not sure you want help. Help means confronting yourself, confronting what you've become. It's easier to stay numb. Summer arrives, the city swelters. Inside the shelter, the heat is oppressive. The air conditioning barely works. Men sleep in their underwear, sweating through thin sheets. During the day, you escape to the library, a beautiful old building with high ceilings and blessed air conditioning. You sit there for hours, pretending to read magazines, but really just enjoying the cool air, the quiet, the sense of normalcy. The library has newspapers. You read about the world outside your bubble, the presidential election heating up, Bush versus Dukakis, the Olympics in Seoul, the AIDS epidemic, the crack epidemic. Homelessness is a growing issue, the articles say. No shit, you think, looking round at your fellow library refugees. One day you pick up a copy of Rolling Stone. There's an article about addiction, about the disease model, about recovery being possible. You read it twice, 3 times. Something in it resonates, though you're not sure what. Maybe it's the idea that this isn't a moral failing, that you're not just weak or bad. Maybe you're sick. Maybe there's a way to get well. But doing something about it requires energy you don't have. It requires hope, which seems in short supply. It's easier to keep going, keep smoking when you can afford it, keep surviving day to day. The future is an abstract concept. The present is all-consuming. Fall arrives, your second fall in the shelter. You've been here a year now, longer than most people stay. The counsellors are getting impatient. There are rules about length of stay, about making progress. You're not making progress. You're treading water, at best slowly sinking. One of the counsellors, a guy named Tom who's younger than you but seems infinitely wiser, corners you one day. He tells you straight, you need to make a choice. You can keep doing what you're doing, keep smoking weed, keep drifting, and you'll be dead in 5 years. Or you can get serious about recovery, actually try, and maybe, you'll have a life worth living. The choice is yours. You think about it. Really think about it. You're 29 years old, nearly 30. Half your 20s gone, wasted, burned away in smoke. Your 30s stretching ahead like a wasteland. What do you have? Nothing. What have you lost? Everything. Family, friends, potential. The person you might have been. For the first time in years, you feel something other than numbness. You feel anger, not at the world, not at your parents, not at circumstances, at yourself, at the choices you made, at the choices you keep making. That night, lying in your bunk listening to the cacophony of the shelter, you make a decision. You're going to try, really try, not tomorrow, not next week, now. The next morning, you talk to Tom, tell him you want help, real help. He nods, no surprise in his eyes. He's heard this before from dozens of guys, seen most of them fail. But he doesn't say that. He just makes some calls. There's a program, a residential treatment program about an hour away. They have a bed available, but you have to want it. You have to be serious. No half measures, no bullshit. All in or not at all. You say you're all in. The treatment centre is a converted motel on the edge of nothing, surrounded by fields and empty sky. It houses 40 men in various stages of recovery. The rules are strict. No contact with the outside world for the first 30 days. No drugs, obviously. No alcohol. Mandatory group therapy, individual therapy, work duty. You're expected to be honest, to participate, to do the work. The first week is hell. Real hell. Your body rebels against sobriety in ways you didn't anticipate. The insomnia is crushing. Night after night you lie in your narrow bed staring at the ceiling, your mind racing. When you do sleep, the dreams are vivid, disturbing. You're chasing something you can never catch. You're running from something that's always behind you. The sweats come, the tremors, the mood swings that leave you weeping one moment, enraged the next. The counsellors say this is normal, that your brain is relearning how to function without chemicals. It doesn't feel normal. It feels like dying. But slowly, imperceptibly, things shift. The physical symptoms ease, your sleep improves, your appetite returns. Food tastes like food again instead of cardboard. You start to remember what it feels like to be present, to experience emotions without the muffling effect of marijuana. Group therapy is brutal and cathartic. Sitting in a circle with other addicts, sharing stories, you realize you're not unique. Your story has been lived 1,000 times by 1,000 people. The specifics change, but the trajectory is the same. Experimentation, regular use, dependence, consequences, crisis, and hopefully, recovery. You talk about your parents, about the disappointment in their eyes. You talk about your sister, about how you missed her high school graduation because you were too high to remember it was happening. You talk about Jennifer, about the date you sabotaged because you couldn't imagine deserving happiness. You talk about the night sleeping in parks, the time in jail, the moment you realized you'd lost everything and didn't even care because you had weed. The other men nod. They understand. Some cry. Everyone's carrying similar weight. Individual therapy with Dr. Sarah, a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and zero tolerance for bullshit. She asks hard questions. Why do you think you started using? What were you running from? What are you afraid will happen if you stay sober? You don't have easy answers. You talk about boredom, about feeling lost, about not knowing who you are supposed to be. You talk about the pressure to succeed, about failing college, about disappointing everyone. You talk about the existential dread that crept in during your early 20s, the sense that life was meaningless and might as well be spent high. She listens without judgment. Then she tells you something that shifts your perspective. You were self-medicating depression and anxiety. You didn't know that's what it was. In the 80s, mental health wasn't discussed openly. You just knew you felt bad and weed made you feel less bad. But weed was treating symptoms while making the underlying problems worse. Now you need to address the actual issues. It's a revelation, depression, anxiety. Real things with real names. Not moral failures or character defects, but conditions that can be treated. She starts you on medication, an antidepressant that will take weeks to work, but might help regulate what's been broken for years. The days find rhythm, wake at 7, breakfast, morning group, work duty, cleaning, cooking, maintaining the grounds, lunch, recreation, afternoon therapy, dinner, evening group or 12-step meetings, free time, bed at 10, repeat. The structure is comforting in ways you didn't expect. For so long your life has been chaotic, directionless. Having a schedule, having expectations, having purpose, even if it's just sweeping floors or washing dishes, it grounds you. You start to sleep through the night. Your appetite normalizes. You gain weight, healthy weight. Your skin clears. Your eyes brighten. When you look in the mirror, you start to recognize the person looking back. Not who you were before weed, but someone new, someone who might be okay. 30 days becomes 60. 60 becomes 90. You complete the program. At the graduation ceremony, a small affair with punch and cookies, the staff presents you with a plastic chip marking 90 days clean. It's cheap, weighs nothing, means everything. Dr. Sarah hugs you, tells you she's proud of you. Tom from the shelter is there. He drove an hour to see you graduate. Your parents are there too. You didn't know they were coming. Your mother cries, holds you tight. Your father shakes your hand, his grip firm, his eyes wet. He tells you he's proud of you. First time he's said that in years, maybe ever. You move into a sober living house, a place where recovering addicts share rent and support each other. Your roommate is James, a former alcoholic who's been sober 3 years. He shows you the ropes, how to job hunt seriously, how to manage money, how to live without substances as a crutch. You get a job at a grocery store, stocking shelves overnight. It's minimum wage, it's not glamorous, but it's honest work. You show up on time, you do the job, your supervisor comments on your reliability. Such a small thing, but it matters. The months accumulate, 6 months clean, 9 months, a year. Each milestone marked with a chip, each chip a small victory. The cravings still come, triggered by stress, by boredom, by seeing someone smoke. But you have tools now. You call your sponsor, you go to a meeting, you reach out instead of using, you reconnect with your family slowly. Sunday dinners at your parents' house, Your sister visits from college, cautiously optimistic. You meet her boyfriend, a pre-med student. You feel ancient compared to them, their lives so full of possibility while you're just trying to stay sober one day at a time. But you're there, you're present. That's something. Life doesn't become perfect. Recovery isn't a magic fix. You still struggle with depression, with anxiety. You still have days where everything feels pointless. But you're learning to sit with those feelings instead of smothering them. You're learning that discomfort is temporary, that feelings pass, that you're stronger than you thought. The 1980s end. The Berlin Wall falls. Cold War thaws. A new decade approaches with all its unknowable changes. You watch these things happen on the news in your sober living house. Sober for the first time in a decade. The world is changing. You're changing with it. You're 30 years old now. A milestone you weren't sure you'd reach. Your 20s are behind you. A cautionary tale. A decade-long lesson in how not to live. But you survived. You're still here. Still fighting. Still showing up. At your 1-year anniversary, at the meeting where everyone celebrates sobriety, people applaud when you receive your chip. You stand in front of them, this room full of broken people trying to heal, and you tell your story. The condensed version, high school experimentation, college dropout, the slow slide into daily use, the consequences that mounted until they couldn't be ignored, the choice to get help. You tell them it's not easy, that some days you still miss it, miss the escape, miss the way weed, made everything feel less sharp. But you tell them the truth. Your life is better sober. Not perfect, not easy, but better. You have your family back. You have a job. You have a future that extends beyond the next high. You have yourself back, or maybe you have yourself for the first time. People come up afterward, shake your hand, share their own stories. You exchange phone numbers, promises to call if you're struggling. This is the community now, not smoking buddies, but recovery friends. People who understand the fight because they're fighting it too. You move out of sober living eventually, get your own apartment. It's small, a studio with barely enough room for a bed, a table, a TV, but it's yours. You pay the rent with money you earned. The walls are white, blank, waiting for you to decide who you're going to be. You buy a VCR, a used one from a garage sale. You rent movies from Blockbuster. There's one 2 blocks away. You watch them sober, experiencing them fully. The Shawshank Redemption, Pulp Fiction, Forrest Gump. Stories about redemption, about second chances, about lives that take unexpected turns. You see yourself in these stories, in the struggles and the survival. Sometimes, late at night, you think about the decade you lost, the opportunities missed, the relationships destroyed, the version of yourself that might have been if you'd made different choices. The grief for that unlived life is real and heavy, but you're learning to make peace with it. You can't change the past. You can only move forward, and moving forward means building something new, something honest, something real. You're not sure what the future holds. Maybe you'll go back to school eventually. Maybe you'll find work you actually care about. Maybe you'll meet someone, fall in love, build a life that looks normal from the outside. Or maybe you'll just keep doing what you're doing, showing up, staying sober, taking it one day at a time. Either way, you're here, you're alive. Against the odds, despite the mistakes through the darkness, you made it out, and that you're learning is enough. The night grows deeper around you now. Let that feeling settle, soft as the first snow. The neon signs of the 1980s dim and fade. The arcade games power down. The cassette tapes stop spinning in their players. The VCRs cease their mechanical whirring. What remains is quiet, the sound of your own breathing, the beating of your heart, the simple fact of existence, of having survived, of being here now. You've travelled far tonight, through wood-panelled rooms and smoke-filled cars, through jail cells and homeless shelters, through the depths of addiction and the slow climb toward recovery, through a decade that promised morning in America but delivered something more complex, more difficult, more real. Rest now. Let the story settle. Let your breathing slow. The 1980s have passed into history, their music and fashion and anxieties fading into the nostalgia of time. But you're still here, still breathing, still fighting, still becoming. Close your eyes, the world outside can wait. For now, there is only this moment, this breath, this hard-won peace. Sleep well. Tomorrow you'll wake up sober, and the day after that, and the day after that. One day at a time for as long as it takes, which is forever, and which is always just today. The story ends not in tragedy, but in hope, not in perfection, but in survival, not with all the answers, but with the willingness to keep asking the questions. And that, after everything, is what recovery looks like. It looks like you, here, now, still standing. The gravel parking lot is empty now. The dive bar's neon has clicked off. The basketball has stopped bouncing. And somewhere in the quiet darkness of a decade that's passed, someone is surviving. Someone is healing. Someone is learning that the worst moments don't have to be the final moments, that someone is you, and you're going to be okay. Not tonight, maybe. Not tomorrow, but someday. And someday starts with today. With this breath, with this choice, with this moment of grace that you've fought so hard to reach. Sleep now, rest. You've earned it. The work of staying sober, of staying alive, of staying human, that work will be there when you wake. But for now, let yourself rest in the knowledge that you survived, that you're still here, that despite everything, against all odds you made it through. And that's the real story. Not the fall, but the survival. Not the addiction, but the recovery. Not the ending, but the beginning that comes after the ending, when you realize that every day you choose sobriety is a day you choose life. Good night, sweet dreams, and congratulations. You lived. Now go live some more.